Welcome to our panel for International Women's Day. We're really excited to have these incredible panelists here with us today. We at Nova Impact are incredibly passionate about creating support systems and supporting impact initiatives all over the world, and think that a huge piece of that is supporting leaders who are agents of change within the impact space. So we're so excited to have this panelist of incredible women, and can't wait to hear the work that they do and where their passions lay and where they see the future of impact going. So I'm going to pass it to Chelsea, my co-founder at Nova Impact, so she can give a little bit more context into what we do.
Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be here and grateful to the entire Fyli team for inviting Nova Impact and allowing for a next-gen specific panel for International Women's Day. Some of the work that we do is helping philanthropists and impact investors have the education, the access to networks, the frameworks that they need to be able to do the good that they want to do in the world. We're really grateful to have some next-gens with us here. I think something unique about most of our panelists is that they're not only passionate about impact, they've built careers in that and have dedicated their personal and professional lives to impacting the world in positive ways. So with that, I'm going to let our team introduce themselves, but I serve as the co-founder, as Olivia mentioned, of Nova Impact, where I focus on philanthropy and family offices, versus Olivia focuses on venture and investment. Sarah is our director of community and culture and keeps us all very grounded. And AnneMarie is a principal at Nova Impact and does a great job thinking about how the corporate sector can be more community minded. So I'll start with AnneMarie and then Sarah, and then Olivia will kick us off with our first question.
Hi, everyone. I'm AnneMarie McComb. Like Chelsea said, I'm the principal here at Nova Impact. I am also an attorney, so I work in corporate law, and I really enjoy thinking about different ways that the corporate sector can work more in CSR, corporate social responsibility, and just making sure that we're giving back to our communities in an appropriate way. Really been excited to work with Chelsea and Olivia and Sarah at Nova and kind of put our heads together to work as next gens and try to make a significant impact in the worlds that we're trying to build right now. So I'll flip it over to Sarah, but I'm just really excited to be here and happy to be working on this panel with you guys.
Thank you, Nova team, for continuing to bring incredible women together. I was inspired to join Nova as their director of community and culture after taking their first impact cohort, and was incredibly inspired by women who are leading the way, who aren't following the traditional path and forging new ones for the next generation to come. And I'm excited to support and understand the community needs as we create impact together, because as we try to understand how to create impact, the most important thing is asking the community what they need, but understanding that the community knows what they need and we just have to support them in getting there.
Perfect. Sarah, thank you so much for that amazing intro. And AnneMarie, we're so excited to have you both on our team. And we're also excited to have this kind of coffee conversation with next gens, including Shaylyn, Stanley, and Catherine Lucchesi. And we would love to have you both introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your work and your passions.
Sure. So I can jump in first. Thank you, Olivia and Sarah and AnneMarie and Chelsea, for bringing us all together. This is wonderful. And it's great to be here also in celebration of International Women's Day with some really great support systems of fellow women in the impact space. I'm really passionate about public health, whether that's international public health or in our own backyard, and have found that by working in nonprofits, that's a really great way for me to be able to create my own kind of impact, but then also find opportunities to bring in fellow women and other individuals who are also passionate about similar things, and finding opportunities for those individuals or organizations or private sector to create impact that's really authentic to them and be able to really communicate that to our communities. So I'm really looking forward to talking with you all more about how we can really do that in the best way possible and to really celebrate this great day. So.
And I'll round out the group. I'm Catherine Lucchesi. I come from a background in the nonprofit sector. I have about 8 years of experience directing programs from the art world to community organizing. And I'm currently a second-year MBA at University of Texas, focusing on finance and ESG. And kind of in my personal time, my passions are investing in women entrepreneurs, conservancy, and also supporting the nonprofits in our community in Austin. And I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your work. We're so excited to have this panel in particular come together, because it seems that we all have kind of focused on not only creating impact in our own lives and our communities, but also recognizing the power of supporting others and finding their own impact. And so we're so excited as Nova Impact to kind of facilitate that conversation and learn a little bit more about what some of the things that have been most supportive to you in your own impact journey, and then how you've kind of looked reflectively to send out that framework to others to be supportive of them finding their own impact. So I'll start with Sarah. I would love to hear your answer to that.
The first thing that comes to mind are actually the men in my life. One of my first bosses, he sat down with me as I was really nervous for my first panel talk for our organization. I was asked to speak at International Women's Day at the UN, I think around 5 years ago. And in discussing how nervous I was, he sat with me for about an hour, helping me go through the speech, walking through tempo and words, and just encouraging me in a way that I wasn't expecting from my boss. It was sort of different from the patient advocacy work that we had, that was our day-to-day. It was just one-on-one time. And that kind of encouragement and support is so necessary in a world that's really fast moving. Even in the pandemic, that one time is really crucial, I think, to helping uplift each other. So I really appreciate him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for diving into that, Sarah. I think it's so important to, not only accept help from mentors, but then also, be a mentor to others. AnneMarie, do you want to dive into our next question?
Well, I don't think we actually got to hear from Shaylyn or Catherine. So before I move into the next question, I'd love to hear from them. So Shaylyn, do you want to go first?
Sure. And I loved your response, Sarah, because it actually reminded me of some of my most important experiences working with a mentor as well. My first employer, my first supervisor, my first job when I got back from the Peace Corps, I was working in this huge international nonprofit, was really excited to be supporting their corporate and foundation partnerships team, but was really new to this industry and didn't quite know where my voice really stood. And he was noticing that although I am very extroverted and outgoing during the day, when we would have these bigger meetings and be sitting down with partners, I was more reserved. And he sat me aside and just told me, be more assertive when you're speaking at the table. You have great opinions that you voice elsewhere, but when it comes down to those meetings, you belong there just as much as anyone else. And having someone just be more straightforward and just push me forward, that was a little boost that I needed to make sure that I'm also asserting myself in a way that can really not only just empower me, but then also make everyone else more comfortable at the table and spark more conversation. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Catherine, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I love that. I echo both of your sentiments around mentorship. I also think fearlessly asking for help and then fearlessly helping others is something that I've tried to practice in my life, if you want to call it that. Never being afraid to tap into a loose connection or reach out to someone who you think is way beyond, your pay grade and ask them for help. I think that I've been very surprised in my life, the amount of people who want to give back to support the next generation. They are just like us. They've had similar experiences, trying times, challenges, and people have helped them. So I think first that fearless asking, and then of course kind of giving it back and paying it forward, always trying to be open to helping others when they ask you. It can definitely be challenging, but some of the most productive people I know set aside time in their week to always answer questions and really use their connections and give other people access to their networks. So that's one thing that's definitely helped me in my career.
I just want to add as a personal example, I'm very big on storytelling and sharing the stories that we've had in our lives. And I think to Catherine's point about being fearless when it comes to impact and women in impact, I can remember shadowing her into various companies like Google and UBS, and just thinking to myself, oh my goodness, here I am in my early 20s. And having Catherine as a mentor was invaluable, but also watching her go into these meetings and really embody that. I think, sometimes fear can prevent us from acting and what's possible. And if we can remove that within ourselves, what I watched Catherine do was build huge community support and engage with sponsors in really meaningful ways, and allow me to learn under her at the same time, because she was willing to do the internal work that it takes to have the confidence to be successful in those types of environments. So that's my story on Catherine's fearless comment. But Olivia, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Well, I mean, I think that's just a perfect example of showing how, not only do we have to be fearless and show up for ourselves, but then also create the space for others to share in that space, right? And this is something that we focus really heavily on at Nova Impact, especially when we're talking about next gen, particularly women in next gen, because, in the impact space is extremely complicated, and it's very much intertwined with business as usual, right? So being involved in that requires kind of an underlying foundational understanding of how the world works, how money flows, how capital flows, who does what. And so that piece of information, it seems to be kind of gate kept, right? Like you don't step into the scene at 19 years old and have a clear understanding of, okay, I know this and I'm going to do this and here's how I'm going to contribute. Rather, I think what all of us have experienced is that there's like kind of this veil around what's happening in the world, and you have to slowly chip away at it. And once you do, and once you have mentors and people like Catherine and Shaylyn and all these incredible people to help you kind of navigate that space, you recognize that the things that help and contribute to success in these spaces aren't these like very, abstract principles, but rather are things that we can learn and, skills that are actually kind of exist in our daily lives. So for instance, I work in the finance space. I had no underlying understanding of it in the beginning. And now that I've been working in venture capital and, had access to being supportive of startups and just people in the space in general, I've recognized that there are a lot of skills that contribute to success in these spaces that can actually be thought of as kind of like feminine, right? Like it's networking, it's understanding problems, it's problem solving, it's multitasking, doing all these different things that, in a space that is kind of perceived as male, there are a lot of feminine qualities and skills that can contribute to a lot of success there. So we're so excited just to have you all on this panel, and I think it goes back to the conversation that we've had before about various forms of capital being really important in the next gen conversation. And what I mean by that is looking at, as next gens, we hold capital that may be financial capital, it may be social capital, it may be knowledge capital, cultural capital. All these various forms of capital equip us to be players in the impact space. And one of the things that we're really excited about with panels like these and just kind of women in this space in general is kind of gaining a better understanding of the forms of capital that we possess, and then using those to be leaders and then help others become leaders as well. Would anyone like to comment on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. We like to describe sometimes you can contribute to a cause in a variety of different ways. There's time, talent, treasure, it goes on. And that speaks exactly to what you're saying. And that really being able to identify that is also then enabling someone to contribute towards the cause in a way that, again, is authentic to them. And when they feel like they're able to contribute towards that cause in a way that they really feel like is a meaningful contribution, in a way that they're really comfortable with, creating that space for them will just enable them to run with that. If they're doing something that they're not as comfortable with, they're not going to really embrace it in the same way that they will if they're like, this is my mission, this is how I want to drive change, this is how my personality and my skill sets can really be leveraged, and I find that I feel like I'm contributing something that's valuable. So creating those spaces for different people to come together and share all of those complementary skill sets and resources is what's going to really make the biggest difference.
I also agree with you so deeply on women having such a great skill set and ability in maybe, non-traditional female spaces. In business school, I see the greatest success in our finance classes are a lot of times women, because we have the ability to think critically and think deeply. And then even just the data surrounding women who are investors, we perform better than men. So I think, that's just one anecdote, but I think that we have those skills to do amazing and great things.
I think adding a story on Shaylyn and what she's built within the Acacia Circle and serving in this next gen specific role, one of my favorite things that I got to see was how she spearheaded the initiative around Giving Tuesday and allowing the next gens to really figure out like their own campaigns and what they wanted to contribute. And yes, we had monetary goals, but it went so far beyond that, and we surpassed the monetary goals because she allowed for that space. I think there was even like a goat yoga or a yoga component to what one of the next gens came up with and did. That was really cool, and some podcasting. So I think remembering when we're in this space of impact and doing this work, allowing and celebrating the various forms of capital, but really making that commitment to do more than just the monetary.
Yes, absolutely. And I couldn't stop thinking about the work that Shaylyn's done as well with Pathfinder International, especially when we think about kind of reframing the kinds of skills that it takes to be successful in any space, but particularly the impact space. And so, we're so excited about the work that you're doing with women. And then, would love to hear more about what that has looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. So in this last year, Pathfinder has really taken a step back and identified that there's great opportunity to better engage Gen Z and millennials in our work and provide opportunities for them to really grow into leaders for the sexual and reproductive health space. So the flagship initiative that we've launched to do this is what Chelsea mentioned, the Acacia Circle. And that's really a tight-knit community for Next Gen to come together and share their experiences with each other that relates to their health experiences, as well as deepen their understanding of what global sexual and reproductive health and rights issues really look like and mean, and then also create spaces for them to activate on those, whether it's through advocacy or different activism, awareness raising efforts in their own networks. And it's been a lot of fun to really work through those different areas and opportunities for contributions. It's been a great learning experience for me too, on how do I juggle this large organization and all of these fantastic next gen that want to be involved. But being able to find those synergies and really think creatively and out of the box, I think is a great sign for what the future of philanthropy really has, and the impact that we're able to create when we all come together to work towards that collectively.
Yes, collectively is the key word there, Shaylyn. Collaborating. None of this is possible if we don't form partnerships and reach across the table, reach across the aisle. Understand that it takes a village and a planet to get all hands on deck to move the needle even 1 inch forward. I really see that within the NOVA community and the women on this panel, that we are all supporting and holding each other so that we can all take that leap together, because it takes a lot of faith. What Next Gens are doing has never been done before. There aren't particular models or roadmaps. We're paving that way together. And sometimes it can be scary to take that first step. But if we do that together and collaborate and partner, I think it makes it a little less scary because we're all jumping in. So.
Yeah, I really love what Sarah said and what Shaylyn said, just collaborating with your community. And on that note, I'd really love to hear from each of you guys about your thoughts on the best way to maximize impact through community leadership and actually supporting, agents of change that are working on the ground to get a lot of the work done. And I think I think it's really important that we view this from a top down as well as a bottom up sort of structure, because you can't work with one, you can't do one without the other. And I think making sure that you're working collaboratively with everybody involved is incredibly important.
Sure, I can jump in. I think one of the biggest things, like the first step is when you are like, okay, I want to do something around this issue, is to have that collaborative mindset. So when you're entering it, you're open to new ideas, you're open and able to identify what areas that you might be able to contribute towards, but also the areas that others need to come in and help you out. And then I think another really important thing is finding these different spaces for individuals to really understand what impact actually means. Like, to create this change, what are the steps that we need to take to get there? What resources are required to get there? And to be able to really break it down, I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as we move forward as a society that needs to tackle so many different issues. Being able to get on a more granular level will be really important in making sure that that impact that we're trying to create is going to be attainable and also sustainable long past our initial efforts.
I'd love to jump in on this. I think one thing that leaders can often do that can hinder their success is think that they have the solution right out of the box and not actually speak to the communities that they want to support and embed those communities in their impact model. I consistently do this all the time, thinking I have some grand idea, and then when you actually talk to the people who you're hoping to support, or think about the products you're trying to launch, it's a totally different system or model that actually needs to be changed. So I think first, kind of staying humble, and actually when you want to have an impact, realize that communities actually have a lot of existing systems already that you can maybe amplify or extend or help to support. And it's not always about kind of pushing your own agenda. That's just one kind of really good starting place, is starting from a place of humble leadership.
I agree, Catherine. Staying humble, and also knowing that this is a long game, and no impact is either great or small. It matters. It's important that even if you're just, taking someone along and having them listen to this panel as a first step to creating impact, or actually, blasting this out to the masses, both are just as meaningful. And we mustn't forget that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and there is enough time.
Thank you, Sarah. I think we're going to close out this panel and conversation, but before we do that, sometimes I get asked, or Olivia gets asked, or Sarah gets asked, AnneMarie gets asked, we all get asked probably, what can we share with Next Gens, and particularly Next Gen women? And so I took some time to reflect on that, but I think where I landed, at least today, is the importance of understanding your story. And to Sarah's point, this isn't over. We're in this for the long game, and we're going to have a lot to do and a lot of work to do, but we get to do that together. And I think part of what we found in this journey with Nova Impact, that's now a part of my impact story, is what incredible opportunity we have when we bring other women alongside us, and when we take the time to listen to each other's stories and to listen to each other's ideas, as Catherine mentioned, and to not assume we have the answers. We're more powerful together. So I would encourage next gens to, as Shaylyn said, think about what you're passionate about, think about being collaborative, but also reach out to other women and leaders that you're inspired by. Be fearless. Send that email to Google that somehow turns into getting to meet with them, right? So I think for the next gen women in this space, just know you can do it, and other women are going to come alongside you to support your journey. So I'm going to turn it to Olivia to close us out.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said that better myself. I'm just so thrilled to have been a part of this conversation and to continue these conversations. I think it's clear that we all see the value of massive collaboration, of supporting other women, and then also of just kind of maintaining these impact values that drive all of our work. And I think it's so exciting that we're able to come together in such an incredible day and support women all over the world. And I'm just so honored to have shared this space with you. So you're all so great. And, we should all continue to know that we can be the change that we want to see in the world. I know it's wildly goofy, but it's absolutely true. And, these people who are change makers, they're not aliens. They're humans just like us, and we can do it also. So we're so thankful to have you all here. So thankful to the team that put this on, and we'll be continuing these conversations. Make sure to get engaged and become a part of the conversation.